Hey, it goes 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. Now here we go. So Game Pass is conditioning gamers on Xbox to not buy games. Hey, I hope everyone is still finding creative ways to keep it gaming. I know life can make it difficult to find time to game. I know this, but I hope everyone is overcoming these obstacles and finding creative ways to keep it gaming, because that's what it's all about. We gotta find ways to keep it gaming, enjoying greatness. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. And if you end up liking what you see, then go ahead and hit the old trusty like button. Also, if you're having a really good time, then I won't even mind if you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Now, we all know the sales data for video games. Well, we don't know all the sales data, but we do have a significant portion of it, and for the data that we do have, it ain't looking good for Xbox. We do know that the sales data in the UK is horrible for Xbox. The data come out of the European countries and other places look even worse. We know how it looks coming out of Japan, abysmal. We know what the data is out of Korea, dreadful. And we know how it looks out of most of Asia, crummy. How long does this trend of gamers not buying games have to go on before it starts to have consequences? How long can Xbox gamers go on without buying games before it starts to have consequences? There are two main failings of Game Pass that are leading to these dreadful sales numbers all over the world. And we're going to examine each one in turn and why PlayStation won't fall into either of these traps. Now, I'm not alone in this video. I have a financial expert with me. His name is Dave, the finance guy, and he's going to introduce himself and explain his background. Take it away, Dave.
Thank you. So Dave is my name. I've been working in multinational finance, big business finance for the last 10 years. Got a lot of experience in top 10 Fortune 500 companies. So I understand how a lot of these big companies work, and how they all operate, what their similarities and differences are, and how they work in a global sense.
Now, Dave, I started out this segment with some sales data from regions all over the world, or basically the summary of sales data from all over the world. And it's really horrible for sales on Xbox. But you have these fanboys out there who preach that sales numbers don't matter. And they say that the sales data isn't reliable. Can you speak to that, Dave?
Yeah. The people that say these sales numbers don't mean anything, they're right in a sense. The sales numbers are diluted. You can't really trust them if you're looking for total impact. But if you just want to look at, we sold this many units of a game, well then it's completely valid. You can't say they don't matter if you want to know how many of copies of this game were actually sold, how many people own the right to play this game, not least the right to have access to it through a subscription service.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about two main failings of Game Pass. So to be very clear, Game Pass is failing in two main areas, and people don't talk about this, but we're going to cover it today. So the first failing of Game Pass is Xbox gamers don't buy games because of Game Pass. And the second failing is Xbox gamers haven't really bought into Game Pass. The subscription numbers are way below where they need to be, and they're not growing the way Xbox leadership thought that they would. Let's talk about how Game Pass de-incentivizes gaming games. One of the worst side effects about Game Pass is that it has convinced Xbox gamers that they don't have to pay for games. Xbox gamers have become more and more comfortable with the idea of not owning their games. They don't care. They are totally okay with renting games for the rest of their lives and not owning their games. All the money that they spent on Game Pass throughout the years, they don't own any games as a result, and they don't care. They do not care that they are not building a library of games of their own that they can use for their families and their friends to enjoy. Dave, can you speak to this? Or do I have it all mixed up somehow?
So specifically for this subject, you were talking about how sales on Xbox and Xbox trying to sell games causes issues with their Game Pass subscription. I've seen percentages for game sales on Xbox as low as less than 10%. And Madden 22 and FIFA 22 are great examples. They sold more on Xbox One by 3 times as many than they did on the Xbox Series S and X combined. So, and it's still less than 25% of the total units sold are coming out of Xbox. So it tells me 2 things. It tells me, one, that people are waiting for these things to get into Game Pass, expecting them to get into Game Pass, or that they're just not interested in buying the game on Xbox. So, when you've got a platform that's only, FIFA is only on two platforms. It's on PlayStation and it's on Xbox. I don't know anybody who plays FIFA on Switch, and I don't think you can get it on PC either. So, when you've got a game that's that big every year, same with Madden, games that are that big every year, and they're just not selling on Xbox, it tells you that the Xbox consumer is preconditioned to not want to buy them, and that means that the marketing team for Xbox is basically conditioned their entire consumer base to just wait till it comes out on Game Pass.
Very interesting stuff.
Yep.
Very interesting, yep. Dave. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about how the subscription numbers are failing. This is the second failing of Game Pass, which has been all over the news the past few days, is that Game Pass failed to meet their growth goals. And they did not barely fail, but they failed by a significant margin. The part that I personally find interesting about this whole thing is that Xbox leadership knew that Game Pass wasn't doing well. They knew it. They know that it wasn't growing, yet their diehard fanboys are out here in these gaming streets defending Game Pass and hyping up Game Pass like it's the most wonderful thing in all of gaming, but yet only 9% of gamers in the so-called Xbox ecosystem have bought into Game Pass. Everywhere you look, these influencers, fake gamers, they out here trying to brainwash the gaming community that they need Game Pass in their lives. They've been pushing this propaganda campaign for years. And yet, after all this preaching and after all this worshiping at the altar of Game Pass, the overwhelming percentage of gamers in the Xbox ecosystem are not interested in the Game Pass cult. The gamers have spoken and have spoken loudly. It is clear that 91% of Xbox gamers do not want Game Pass, or at least in its current iteration. So here's the thing. While the fake influencers and the fanboys are fighting the good fight as little soldiers in the Game Pass army, the executives at Microsoft, they know that Game Pass is failing to reach their goals. The executives know that gamers are not falling for the hype of Game Pass. The executives know that gamers are not subscribing at the rate that these same executives have defined as a rate for healthy growth. As a matter of fact, they didn't want their own money to be messed up by Game Pass failing. So what did they do? They made moves to minimize the impact of Game Pass on their bonus money. And Dave is going to explain this to the best as he can.
Okay, so very quickly, the way that the executives at Microsoft, from Satya all the way down to down in Greenberg, Todd Greenberg's level, down at their level, they all get remunerations based on improving value for the Microsoft shareholders, right? Enron did a very similar thing, and everyone knows what happened with Enron. What happens is there's 6 or 7 categories, and they've got them split up between, cloud services, Teams, LinkedIn, Xbox, Game Pass, and a few others. They're all self-nominated categories. They agree to this stuff from the outset, and they have them weighted differently. So it carries more impact for one than the other. Xbox Game Pass subscriptions are actually weighted at the lowest amount of 5%, whereas Teams is weighted at 20%, Microsoft Teams. Microsoft, their cloud-based infrastructure services is weighted at 35%. So what that means is if something performs poorly and it's got a higher weighting, it has a bigger impact when they adjust it at the end. But if it's a lower rating, say 5%, and it performs poorly, it has a lesser impact. And what happened specifically with Game Pass was it failed to meet its target by 10%. Now that's interesting because some of the other higher categories, they actually track it on dollars, not percentage growth, they track it on dollars. But Game Pass, LinkedIn are tracked, and one other, I think it's the Surface, their Surface Pro, whatever that technology is, those 3 are tracked on percentage growth. So what you can do, for the example with Game Pass, you can give the thing away for free. And if you're counting growth in terms of subscriber numbers rather than dollars revenue, you can give the thing away for free on boxes of cereal, and as long as someone activates that free code, that counts. And if you take note of how Xbox was pushing Game Pass ridiculously hard in the 3 months leading up to the end of June, they were giving it away on cereal boxes. There were $1 deals all over the place. There was subscribe and get the first 3 months free. They were trying to give this thing away so they could pump that subscription number up to meet their bonus level. But what they also did was they adjusted the weighting from 7% back down to 5% in case they missed it. It didn't have as big an impact. So they were manipulating this in the background to make sure that they had a very good chance to meet their targets to get their bonus.
Wow. So Microsoft executives knew that Game Pass was not doing well, and they hid the numbers, and they did a bunch of manipulation to make sure that they had good bonus money, even though they knew Game Pass was doing poorly. Okay, well, I guess that's the way business works. Dave, man, let the people know where they can find you in case somebody wants to challenge your findings or some of the things that you say. How can the people find you, Dave?
Yep, you can find me on Twitter. Hit me up. I'm always keen for a chat. If you think you can come and have a crack at me, you want to make sure you got your numbers straight before you have a go.
Okay, well, you heard the man. Hey, everybody, go ahead and hit the like button if you enjoy what you heard from me and Dave. Also, go ahead and subscribe because we got more of this good stuff for you. Keep it gaming, y'all. Peace.